Among ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hira Dadia. We have with us Mr. Saurabh Mittal, CFO at Shant Group, joining in. Welcome to the show, Saurabh, and a pleasure to speak to you as always. Saurabh, my first question coming to you is, how has COVID been as an impact and how have we transitioned over the last 18 to 24 months?
Good morning and thank you, Hira, for having me again. Always a pleasure to talk. Last 18 to 24 months have been quite transforming for the industry, and there have been major challenges with school closures, universities closed, everybody trying to do work and study online. And we've seen a lot of challenges in terms of reaching out to customers, in terms of meeting schools' needs, because everything was online. So, and we've transitioned. I mean, we've transitioned pretty quickly. We've been able to provide teachers and students access to books online, and there have been even physical books delivered to schools and institutions. The major thing that has happened in the last 18 to 24 months is probably the way we've looked at the whole business in terms of the cost factors that are there. We've been able to resize the business in terms of how much back-end cost we need. We've rationalized our operations in terms of number of locations that we were at, number of supply points that we had. So it's been a real good learning for us. Efficiencies have gone up internally tremendously over the last 24 months, whether it was partially because of work from home or partially because we were able to work with a lower size team. So all of that has happened, and there's also been a realization that how much more you can do with the existing the infrastructure and number of people that you have. So that way we've reduced cost almost 30 to 40% of OPEX over the last 2 years, from FY19 to FY21. And our cash flows we've been focusing on the last 24 months, and that too has seen almost a double jump from FY19, probably 48 crores to 107 crores last year. So overall, it has been a good learning, and we've taken a lot of the whole industry has looked at it like that, and people are conservative in terms of the production runs, the number of titles that they want to bring out in terms of SKUs, and also the quantum of supplies that are need to go to schools. So that has also become very realistic now. It's no more too much of a push business. It is more of actually getting adoptions in schools and delivering to your customer the amount of material that is actually needed.
Right. So with all of this, clearly December to January saw the full impact of COVID Omicron variant across the country. A lot of schools and higher education institutes that went back to digital education, and clearly, a lot of shifts that happened. Now, again, if you go to see, we are pretty much into the sales season, and you have schools which have started to reopen as well in full swing after 2 years. So what's the sense that you're picking up from a business strategy perspective, one? And two, do you think there could be price hikes on the anvil as well on the product portfolio that you have?
We were lucky this year, to be honest. Q4 accounts for almost 80% of our revenue. But it's March that accounts for almost 40%. And the last two cycles, both March 20 and March 21, was impacted due to COVID. We're lucky it came earlier this year in January, and it was mild. So there was no real impact from outside, and most of the people are vaccinated in terms of the 18 plus. So even the 14 to 18 kids have got vaccinated. So that's a plus. And what we see, you go out in the morning, you see buses coming in, kids going to school. That's a very encouraging sign for us. If I go on a morning walk daily, that is something that I really smile and come back, because kids are actually now enjoying going to school. We've got children at home who are like stepping out and getting back to what a normal schooling was. So it's apart from the business, it just gives everybody a good sense of life coming back to normal. And what we have seen, of course, in the current period is that the demand is almost coming back to the pre-pandemic levels in terms of uh, a lot of our supplies have already gone out, and January we did not get impacted at all. In fact, January was much better than last year. Feb has been equally robust, and March also we're going in line with last year. So really, there's been no impact on this quarter for us, and we see schools opening up. We see, in fact, supplies going earlier than they were in the previous years, because everybody wants to start schools early and get the next session going as soon as possible. Of course, except for the classes 11, because again, the 10th examinations are, I think, so a bit delayed into April. There also, luckily, the government has come up with the 2-term policy, and they've got one examination in November, December, and then the second term in March or in April. So that way, they've already got one level of assessments. I think they've already come out with the results for classes 10 and 12 for the one batch from the first term. In terms of price hikes, we are not in the industry who can take a quarterly price hike, to be honest. We have a catalog that gets decided probably by September. The prices are decided for the full year, and that is when we start promoting the books. So no price hikes can happen in between, because you've already given the catalogs out, and you have to make supplies against those prices. It's only a small segment, which is the test preparation segment, that we can still play around with the prices a bit, but we don't see a substantial price hike right now. Yes, next year, because the way paper prices have gone in the current year, we might have to relook at that. But again, I'm expecting prices of paper also to start falling come end April, May, when the demand starts going off.
Right. So overall, from a business perspective, when are we expecting to break even at EBITDA and profitability level? What's the vision on that front now?
So EBITDA, we were positive last year also. In terms, I think we had a good number last year, and I think we probably would have broken even already in terms of EBITDA for the current year. And I'm very confident that this year we'll step over the line of we will be in the black this year.
Right. And overall, in terms of the debt as well, we are moving to a fundamentally lower debt profile. Are we on track to reach the net debt zero level by Q4 of FY23? And secondly, on the inventory front as well, we had a target of say around 800 to almost 1,000 million by Q4 of FY22. So are we on track for both these aspects?
Yes, we are on track on both of these things. In terms of net debt, I think we were 157 as of December, and we probably end at between 80 to 90 by the end of this year. By next year, we should be about net debt zero. I mean, take 20-30 crores here and there, we should be there. So that's
right. Sort of coming to the digital side of the business, last 2 years did see a massive pickup in terms of digital business across categories, especially from an education perspective as well. I know you have LearnFlix and Milestone as well. Now, how is that shift looking like? Do you think digital business is something which is here to stay, which is going to keep expanding, wherein the share of revenue of digital business for S-Chand will keep increasing over time versus the core business?
So the bifurcation of business into digital and physical is something that we're not really looking at this point of time. What COVID has taught us is that we of course need to have a digital intervention in each of the segments that we are in. But having said that, only digital in the formal curriculum space is not something that is working really well. I mean, last 2 years have taught all of us that without that physical intervention in class, there's a lot of lack in terms of the learning that students are having, especially in the formal curriculum. Test prep, still possible, because there you are only meeting certain needs of solving certain questions and all that. But for the formal curriculum space, I think the way forward is blended learning. I mean, that is what we are focusing on. So what I would say, instead of breaking up my business into physical and digital, I would rather say that we will be 100% into a blended learning format, where each of our, wherever our content is going, there would be support and supplementation of some digital intervention, whether it is a digital platform, whether it is an app, whether it is YouTube videos. We just launched STEM Academy some time back on YouTube, which is also being looked very well by the, we've done it for the higher education segment and test prep segment. So that also we are building on. So I would, and then again, it is something that is well entrenched along with the book that is going, the physical book that is going. So I would rather call it a blended, we would be 100% blended approach for learning rather than just breaking it up into physical and digital. Because again, there also, wherever we say digital, it's not pure digital is something that we're not really looking at all.
Right. So from a digital education perspective, the biggest gap sort of that I've seen in the last 2 years is between the private schools versus the government schools. Now, majority of the players who have been present in the edtech space have been doing tie-ups, etc., mainly with the private schooling structure. Whereas when you look at a lot of government schooling side of it, that has been left untouched. So is there any strategy that an Eschanth also has to reach out with the solutions that we have to the government side of business as well?
So two parts of that question. First, of course, is yes, edtech has gone up, but edtech last 2 years has done more of B2C rather than B2B.
Correct.
Except for you leave aside a lead which is in the curriculum space. Rest of them largely done a B2C. So they're not tied up with schools. They've largely gone and sold directly to customers, whether it's Byju's, an academy, or
correct.
Right. And the second part of the question in terms of, could you repeat the second part, sir?
The second part was, how big an opportunity can a B2G be? Because if you see the number of schools...
In terms of government, again, we've tried this before, to be honest, and we have, we do some work with the government in terms of the distance learning programs in some of the universities. We've done some digital projects with the governments before, but we're not too, we're not too gung-ho about that, because we've seen that there's a lot of challenges with the government in terms of, them understanding what you're offering, then providing it to them, then payment issues. I mean, it's a lot of effort without enough payback. So really, I mean, we would rather not put in the effort there. But yes, slow and steady. We've done some work with some governments, and but again, that's largely been Northeast, where it's still easier to operate with the government because there it's not that complicated. But apart from that, we've tried speaking to the government. We've tried speaking to various universities and stuff. I mean, we have limitations internally. We are not too.
Absolutely, that's not a part of the business strategy. That's what I'm trying to.
Not really, because again, it doesn't give you enough payback. I mean, it's getting money stuck for a longer period of time and a lot of effort.
Right, and overall, with the NEP that has been formally adopted as well, NEP 2020, what are the changes that we will be needing as well from a product perspective to adopt it? And, we'll have the new curriculum framework as well that will be announced.
Yes, so the NEP is done well for us in the higher education segment. A lot of technical universities like UP have come out with the NEP based books, and that have given us very good traction this year. In terms of all the other books, of course, whatever is there in the NEP, we've mapped our content, and we've put in that mapping within all of our content that has gone out to schools this year. So all of these books are NEP compliant in terms of what, plus whatever the hands-on activities and other stuff that is required in terms of supporting teachers on how they should teach as per the new NEP. We've given those guidelines in terms of workshops, lesson plans, and all to all the teachers. So we are working around that. We are waiting for the NCF to come. We are actively engaging with people to ensure that we are ready for the NCF. Our team is ready with all that is needed for that, because the broad framework is already there. So we're well prepared to get into the NCF, and of course come out with content as soon as it is announced.
Right. So overall, sort of, what are the next milestones we are looking to cross, say, over the next 2 to 3 years?
One, of course, as I told you, that 100% blended learning is one of them. we bet on a few startups in terms of the edtech space. So probably looking at some exits in the next 6 months to 2 years time in some of them. 3 of them are doing really well, including Testbook, Smartivity Labs, and of course the recent one, iNeuron Intelligence, which is quite a different way that we got into. They do courses in artificial intelligence, data sciences. So a very robust team there, and very young and robust team, and they're doing really well this year. So these are the kind of partnership we're looking at. We are trying to help them get into the B2B space. So that's one thing. We're also looking at strategic partnerships with other players. I can't disclose all of that, but those ones are good partnerships to ensure that we are able to be a content supplier to some of the edtech companies that are there already there, and partner with coaching institutes and all that. So we are working around that. Plus, of course, we may be looking at buying out some publishing lists in some segments as and when they are available. Once we have the cash in the books, which we hope by next year we should be enough cash. So we might be looking at an acquisition possibly end of next year or something.
Right. And my very last question, Saurabh, coming to you is, in terms of the product strategy for the future, I understand you're looking at content, classes, assessments, teacher connect, analytics, insights. Now, all of this put together under one gamut, are we open to business opportunities where we see white labeling our product to other companies? Is that an area of, that we're exploring as well?
Yes, that's what I said. We're looking at strategic partnerships where we can, we can offer a content and people can use it for their own purposes. So that again, it has to be more of a strategic partnership, which is
right. And sort of my last question coming to you is, just your view that I want to understand with regards to digital education as a platform. How sustainable is it? Because a lot of confusion that does arise that, okay, currently it was utilized basis a need, basis a necessity. But there are pros and cons to it as well. What a physical school can provide to a student, to a learner, to a child, a digital platform is not going to really give them that connect, give them that growth perspective that you and me have probably had, that exposure that we've had. So how sustainable is that aspect?
I don't think I have a very clear answer to that, because again, it's still evolving for all of us. Correct. And while we are able to do this, even this webinar online, some of things are really, some of the things will continue to be like this. We'll continue to do a lot of interaction online with our peers, with even the children are doing it with their peers and stuff. I think formal education in schools should still continue. That's a personal view, and because again, it gives that social interaction to students, which sitting at home they do not get to that level. And secondly, of course, how sustainable? I think, see, to an extent, it will be sustainable where it adds value. It cannot be the only way to do things, but yes, wherever it adds value, wherever it saves time, wherever it saves money, definitely it is sustainable. But again, only that, I don't think so.
Absolutely. I think there has to be, the industry will have to find its way, and that ecosystem will have to come together as well to put everything into perspective, probably optimal to use a hybrid model of education as well going ahead. But thank you, Saurabh, so much for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure to get your views, inputs, insights. Good luck, and hoping that there is no COVID that affects any of the businesses and everything is back on track to 2018, 2017 kind of ways.
We are waiting for that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.